Serge Frech, Managing Director at the ICT Berufsbildung Schweiz. In English, it says the Vocational Education and Training Switzerland. I hope that's right. Wonderful. An organization that is often mentioned in the media when it comes to new ideas or lack of skilled people. Then we have Charlène Panchaud, scientific collaborator at the Swiss Security Network. She did research on all the educational programs on tertiary level, so universities and Hochschulen. Then we have over there Cedric Ashliman, Cyber Defense Management Project researcher and chair of Defense Economics at the Swiss Armed Forces. He did a research project on exchange of information regarding cyber competence. And then last but not least, Elisa Papa next to me. She's responsible for data protection and privacy lead at Deloitte Switzerland. Her projects have one thing in common. They enable companies to foster digital trusts, a driver for innovation and security. I asked Marina before what was her dream job as a child, and we're talking about upskilling people, skilled people, how many people are working in cybersecurity. So I'm going to ask you first as well. What was your dream job as a child, Elisa?
Ooh, okay, so it's actually quite similar to what Marina said. As far as I can remember, I was very fascinated by science. And I then ended up studying physics, so I carried on that passion during my studies. And I think it was also influenced by the fact that my dad was a physicist. So I was thrown into the physics world. Since the age of, as soon as I learned how to read, I got books on physics. What is an atom? What is matter made of? So I think that also encouraged me to get into that direction. But I did really love it. And I was at school, I loved the labs that we had at high school.
Somehow a techie as well.
I guess so, yeah. And maths, they go hand in hand. So I was very good at maths. I attended a lot of maths competitions. I was a bit of a geek at school. So,
a geek, wonderful.
And I carried on.
Charlène, what about you?
So I always wanted to become a doctor or medical assistant working in ambulances. So yeah, that was my dream job.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Cedric?
Yeah, so just like you, I'm also a big history nerd. I've always wanted growing up to become an archaeologist studying past civilizations. There's not that much work opportunity in that field, so I switched to studying modern society in the field of economics.
Serge, what about you?
Absolutely not the CEO of an association. I wanted to become a spy.
A spy?
Yeah.
MI6, James Bond?
Not that much.
Not that much.
More a human spy.
Right. Oh, wow. Wonderful. So I would say the industry, the ICT industry did a good job because you're all on the panel now, even though you were not thinking of it as a child. So somehow they attracted you. But we know also the ICT industry this is not enough. You are here as well, which is great, but we're not enough. There's a lack of skilled people. And before we talk about how to make sure we get more of them, just quickly, once again, what's the issue when we're not having enough of cybersecurity people? Because in my daily life, I don't feel that lack of skilled people. Serge, can you tell us is there really an issue if we're not having enough of these people?
There is a big issue. So we have a big lack of skilled ICT specialists in the industry generally, but then there is a peak of a gap in the cybersecurity industry. And there it comes to critical infrastructure, medical security in the hospitals, banks, and so on. And when there is a lack, we open the door more for criminals to enter it. So when there is the peak, then it gets critical.
You mentioned hospitals. Is it right that the health industry is among the weakest at the moment when it comes to cyber attacks?
So probably that's a question for the specialist, but I think yes.
You think yes, wonderful. See if somebody else knows about it later on. So there is an issue that we're becoming less safe. Cyber attacks are becoming more severe. Cedric, you are here as a representative of the army. Is the army aware of it? What is the army doing about it? Because I think this is an issue for the army. When we're less safe as a country.
Absolutely. So this is a key. So as Serge said, there is a lack of specialists means that we have more vulnerable critical infrastructures, and that leads to a lack of national security. So the army has prioritized that. So for the past few years, there is the development of the new cyber command. that's well underway now. The Cyber Battalion, which gathers all cyber specialists who are part of the armed forces, has just been created and is operational as of this year. So there is really a push towards making sure that cyber specialists are joining the armed forces and are able to use their skills, so the skills that they gained in their daily life, to use those skills in the service of the Swiss Army to help protect the critical infrastructures.
Did I get it right that there's a particular Cyberlehrgang when you're and a part of the military service?
Yeah.
Instead of digging in the mud, running through the mud, you can sit in front of a computer?
Yes, exactly. So if you join the army as part of the normal military service, you can then join in. So as soon as you enter, you can join in the Cyber Battalion that I just mentioned. So you just apply to join in if you have knowledge of ICTs. So if you have cyber competences, you can join in, and then you are integrated into that cyber battalion. You get training in cyber defense. So you get an in-depth training in cyber defense measures, and then you're detached to different organizations across Switzerland to help perfect your skills by practicing them.
So the army has more offers. Charlene, you looked at tertiary level. Are there enough offers, enough programs on tertiary level? You did a research on it. I think it's something unique that you did. What did you observe? What did you find out when you did the research on the tertiary level?
So we, the Swiss Security Network, elaborated that list of the tertiary level training programs in Switzerland in cyber field. And this is the first time such an overview is elaborated. So, and it is published on the website of the National Cybersecurity Center. And what we saw based on that overview is that there are more than 120 training programs that are available in Switzerland.
120?
Yes.
Wow, so that's great.
That is great, yes.
Is there a but?
I mean, the offer is existing, so that's a very good point. You don't have to travel abroad to be educated in that field, so that's a very good point. But the challenge we face when it comes to update that overview or that list is that actually the offer is very volatile because some universities don't have enough participants that subscribe to the training program, so they are simply cancelled. So the offer is very volatile. So there, yes, more than 120 training programs, but it can be different next month or next year.
Right. So it's volatile. There's no clear overview who's doing what. It could start at one point and then another one says, no, we're not starting it. No, so the offer is very large and it's present all around Switzerland. So in the French-speaking part and German-speaking part, but no, it can be very volatile. So a training program can exist this year and it's a very good opportunity for one student or a person who is interested in being educated, but it can be simply cancel and not being available the next year. Another key element that we heard from Marina is obviously how do we get women into that field? There's a huge potential because at the moment only 50% of ICT jobs are done by women. We know in poorer countries such in Turkey and India, it's up to 30% of the people in ICT jobs are women. Marina talked about it. She was inspired by her dad or supported by her dad. Serge, how do we get more women into ICT jobs? I think
if I knew this, we wouldn't have that problem.
I think that the ICT is starting with the ICT Berufsbildung Schweiz is starting with scouts going to schools, right?
We support them absolutely. So they go scouting into the public schools. They identify talents and they bring them into a training which goes for about 3 years. Every second Saturday, they go there for a training in robotics and digital skills. And they have up to 50% girls there. So that's one of the best programs I know so far. But they go straight to the talents. They go in the public school and the classes have to follow 1 or 2 lessons to the scouts. And then they scout them and bring them to the program. So they actively approach the girls. And I think this is the big difference. We have to go actively onto the girls, future women, to bring them into the MINT theme or into IT. I think this might be the receipt. And also what we need more are role models. Mm-hmm. Much more.
How important do you think are parents?
130 role models.
Yeah, exactly. They're all in here. They're great. That's why we have them on stage as well. That's why I think this is such an important day. The role models. And what about, do we have to speak to parents? Are all parents supportive if a girl says, I'm a techie and I want to hack and I want to program?
No, they are not. But it's not the problem of the parents, it's the problem of the society. Mm-hmm. We have a very stereotypical society. And it's the same for boys. If a boy wants to become a cosmetic, I'm sure his dad will say, are you sure? Mm-hmm. And the same for a girl who wants to become an IT girl or an engineer. Mm-hmm. It's only the questions, are you sure, will bring them away from this track, mm-hmm. from this interest, because it's so stereotypical what a girl or a boy has to become. Mm-hmm. If we compare to other professions which are stereotypical female jobs, we only have 1 or 2% boys, mm-hmm. or one number percentage of boys. Mm-hmm. So we have the problem vice versa.
Yeah, on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think in IT and especially cybersecurity, a higher diversity is even more important, mm-hmm. because we have different perspective on the threats.
Mm-hmm. So, Elisa, you're working for Deloitte. I'm sure Deloitte wants more women, as all companies at the moment want more women, as they want more diversity. How are you achieving that?
So I'm going to repeat a bit what Serge said, but we organize 2 kinds of initiatives. So first one is boot camps, trainings for young university students, so targeting women. We invite them for a few days, for a week even, to Deloitte to explain what cybersecurity is about. So, because cybersecurity is not just a purely technical field. We also have, it covers so many capabilities. So, like I think it was mentioned earlier, you have the policy making, you have data privacy, which is a legal, very often a legal topic. You have resilience, vigilance. So, it really, the spectrum of cybersecurity topics is very wide, and students from all kinds of backgrounds can get into it. So, we do these trainings, these sessions to make sure girls, young university students know that and are not discouraged by the name and by the fact that it's really always linked to a very technical topic that only computer scientists can do. So that's one initiative. And the second initiative is around networking. We organize networking events where we invite Deloitte colleagues, but also external students, colleagues from other companies to network. And that, I think, goes in the direction of showing that there are role models to the young university students who want to go or think about going into that field.
So they know they're not the only ones.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're not alone.
I can imagine, as you're working for Deloitte, it's not only about getting women, it's in general getting the talents. Because if there's a lack of people they can choose, it means you have to make sure you get these people. How are you doing it? Is it just about offering a good salary, or what are young people looking for?
Oh, not at all. No, not at all. It's actually, there's a lot of more people now, when they look at a job, they think about various aspects. So salary is, of course, an important, you need to be paid for the work you do, but it's also about work-life balance. It's also about the purpose of the job. So what we do, also internally for us, for the employees, we try to build that sense of purpose, sense of belonging to a team, and then we try to transmit that in the recruiting process. So when I interview a candidate, I want to, it's the conversation goes in 2 directions. So they have to tell me why we should employ them, but we have to tell them why we're the good employer. And so that's why I always try to explain what the purpose of our job is, what the direction we want to go in is. And I think that's very important and it's quite valuable.
So that's the thing. I think all the big companies are now looking to make sure you have got a purpose that people are attracted by.
I believe so, yeah, based on the discussions I have with the candidates.
What we know is also from news articles and research that young students, they're looking for purpose, but it seems also they prefer international companies, particularly the big US tech companies, the US tech giants. They hire the best talents. And They might have a good purpose, but also having a good salary. And what the NZZ wrote just last year was the big US giants hire the best talents, but they hardly offer any apprenticeships. Serge, might I ask you that? What do you think about the big tech companies? Do they offer enough apprenticeships, or are they just taking away all our talents?
No, they don't, and yes, they do.
So who is and who doesn't? Can you come up with some names? Can we mention some?
No, of course not. That would be very hard for me, but you might Google it or you find it on Facebook. No, there is a big problem because we have some huge tech giants in Switzerland, which is obviously very attractive for them because we have very, very well educated personnel here in Switzerland, and they absorb them. They pay good salaries. They have slides into the canteen. Everything is very interesting there, but they do not educate enough. And you should educate up to 8% of your ICT personnel. Up to 8% should be apprenticeships, so you can foster your specialists in future also.
So it means if you have 100 people, 8 should be
yes,
in an apprenticeship.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what some of the big tech giants.
No one in Switzerland reaches this number. But
right.
Now we have an average of 5%.
Yeah.
From all the specialists are apprenticeships or apprentices, and in the giants it's less than 0.1%. I don't know exactly the numbers. But they are extremely low. We have giants which do not educate at all.
Can we change that? Can we put pressure on them?
Hardly. With long discussions, negotiations, and awareness building also, we managed that Google exemplarily educates up to 12 apprentices per year, which is very nice, absolutely nice, but it's by far not 8% of those more than 4,000 specialists they have in Switzerland. And we need to raise this figure from 5.9 to 8% so that we do not have this gap of more than 40,000 specialists in the future anymore. Because 80% of all graduates, they started once in the apprenticeship. This is the foundation of all specialists in future, from every level of education.
It's interesting because there's enough programs on tertiary level, but it seems we really have to make sure we get more apprenticeships.
Yeah, but we have many programs, but we cannot have them done because lack of students.
Yeah.
As Charlene said.
Yeah. So therefore you start, as you said.
You need the foundation, absolutely.
Yeah. So now we talked about what's there on tertiary level. We talked that we need more apprenticeships. Another big topic that we definitely have to talk about is lack of shared knowledge. As Sophie was mentioning, the importance of working together, sharing knowledge. And I think, Cedric, you're the right one to ask there because you did that research on who is sharing knowledge among companies when we look at the landscape of companies. Can you tell us a bit about that research? Because I think it's key because the criminals are sharing knowledge, but what about the good guys?
Yes, so exactly as you said, the bad guys are sharing knowledge. So the attackers, as a rule, basically share almost all information they have, but the weakness is defined, so everything is easily available for them. On the other hand, the defender, as Sophie talked about, there is a reluctance to share information. There is a reluctance to work together. So this leads to a natural disadvantage. So the defenders have a disadvantage to fight against the attackers. So why is that the case? There is a lot of regulations surrounding information sharing. There are a lot, so companies, since they are in a competition against each other, they also have a reluctance to share something that could possibly help their competitors. So it's a classical prisoner's dilemma. So if information is shared, it results to a safer environment for everybody, but each individual organization has incentives not to share. So this leads us to a situation where we have most companies who are reluctant to share the knowledge, who are reluctant to share the skills that they have with other companies. And so that's why we need initiatives like the one that Sophie presented to help build a community of shared information. So the financial sector is doing really well on that side, and something that we need to expand to all the other critical infrastructures.
So the knowledge is like spread on little hubs somewhere. It sounds a bit like medieval. Everybody's looking for his own castle, but they're not connected to each other.
Exactly.
How could we change that? Yes, we have to collaborate, but what is it that people are reluctant? What's the issue that you trust the other to share it? Is it only competition, or are there other topics that we can change that?
Yeah, well, there's also, so as I said, there's this lack of trust in people that organizations don't know. So if an organization doesn't know and doesn't personally interact with another one, they do not trust their competences. They do not trust that this other organization can use their data in a proper and in a safe way. They do not trust their intentions. So if we share information about the weaknesses that we found in our systems, what are those people going to do with that? So we need a structure. So first, a structure to promote information exchange on a secure platform. So we have Melanie that kind of works, but is not very much well spread across all sectors. So especially for the private and academic sector, it's a bit hard to access. So it's something that needs to be improved and more developed.
Charlène, collaboration, looking at what are the others doing, as you mentioned already, it's also an issue on tertiary level. What do you think, what's the lack there? What should be done to collaborate more? What should they exchange? What kind of knowledge should they exchange?
So I'm only talking about the academic sector here because based on my experience and the overview we elaborated, we can see that many universities are offering programs, for example, certificates of advanced studies in cybersecurity. There are many in Switzerland and in many universities. And because maybe and somehow universities are also acting like actors, organizations that are reluctant to collaborating with each other because they are acting in the training programs, a market like any other economic actor in any other market. And I think there is an opportunity here for the universities to speak to each other and to collaborate, exchange knowledge in order to specialize themselves and to still sharing the market, so to specialize themselves and offer specialized and more optimized, actually, training programs. And that could lead to more optimized offer in order to actually meet the demand or the needs we have in Switzerland.
So talk to each other, and if one is offering studies A, the other shouldn't offer studies A as well, but should offer studies B, for example. Like saying, we're offering B when you're offering A.
For example, that could be a solution. Actually, national cybersecurity standard could help doing that.
Standards?
Yes, because the universities could actually identify the competencies that are lacking in Switzerland and promote training programs in order to educate in that competencies, actually.
So Cedric mentioned collaboration. You mentioned collaboration. Elisa, working for Deloitte. Are they open to collaborate? Or they'd rather, like Cedric mentioned, like, no, we keep our knowledge to ourselves?
I think they are open to collaborate. I think and I get the question a lot from organizations I work with, what are the others doing? Or how mature are we compared to the average industry standard? So I think there is openness to collaborate. Of course, it's hard you're a bit reluctant in disclosing information, especially when you're on the low maturity side of the spectrum, because you're doing too little. And then should you be exposed to a breach, then you know that it's well known that you did not do enough to avoid that. So I see why it's difficult, but we'll get there, especially if you build communities, where companies start sharing, where we build, I don't know, round tables, organize, have open conversations, because then the more companies talk, the more you set a standard.
Again, standards is mentioned. So I think standards is really a thing. No? Yeah. Cedric, I think as well, I think, was it in your study as well?
Yeah.
Standards, we need to know what we're talking about and to be on
Yes.
same standards, knowing what the standards are.
Yes, exactly.
I'll open up to questions in the panel, but that means I'm looking to Fabio. Do we have questions? Open up for questions from the audience. Do we have questions from the audience?
Yes, we do, quite a lot.
Great.
So there's still some upvotings happening. Yeah, I'll start with the top question. What would you recommend to non-techie professionals that want to move to the cyber industry? And how can companies support them? And I'll add another question directly to one of the participants, maybe to Elisa. Do you give a chance to applicants cross-applying from different areas, and how do you help them to
Can you repeat the
skills?
question? Do you give a chance?
To applicants cross-applying from different areas.
Cross-applying from different areas. So from different backgrounds.
Yeah, I think.
Should I take the
Yeah,
question?
please.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I was saying that we encourage to have backgrounds from different profiles from different backgrounds. In our team, we have. I'm a physicist. Like that, so I can already. I'm living proof that that's the case. So absolutely, we encourage students from all kinds of university studies. The thing we look for is the critical mindset, the problem-solving skills that you would then have to adopt to every project that we do. So yes, the answer is yes.
The other question about non-techie people, I think I'd like to hand that over to Serge, because you just recently started something, no, for people who did the CAFO, the calculation.
Yeah,
top-up.
very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. So we had a negotiation, more or less, with the Kaufmännischer Verband Schweiz. And they said they have problems for the graduates from the apprenticeship, that they find still a place in the transforming industry, in the transforming society also. So we approached them and offered them a new federal diploma of higher education, Fachausweis, digital collaboration specialist.
Digital collaboration specialist.
Yeah, exactly. So with their apprenticeship, it allows them to follow the training and then to go to the examination, which is us doing this because we are an independent examination organization. And so then they have better chances in the industry or in the business at all. Yeah. And it helps them to be able to follow the digital transformation. And also maybe, if I may, about the concurrence among the different educational organizations. I think they need the concurrence, so they offer the best training. Mm-hmm. And we have also our educational partners, and they all bring their students to one point of examination, and this is us. And there they can measure which one is the best school, mm-hmm. the ones with the highest success rate. And this is very interesting because we have 4 times more students at the federal exams than we had 3 years before in cybersecurity. So this is really rising, and this is a good sign, I think, also for especially the cybersecurity industry. And they have their one standard, and it's a federal standard because it's a federal exam. And we developed this with the industry and the army. So I do not make marketing for our examination because we are only the organization who takes up the exams. Yeah.
So, but again, the word standards is mentioned.
Yeah,
so we need to know what's in there. We need to know what's the standard, what is the level to make it comparable, and to know what's Another question?
Yeah.
Look, somebody's raising their hand. Wonderful.
Okay,
we also
great.
have a second microphone. Do we have somebody who can bring that microphone? No, we have nobody who can bring it. Oh, Fabio. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Hands on, exactly.
you've just mentioned about the applicants coming from from other businesses. There I see a little bit of a trap, given the fact that the recruiting is tool-based and coming along with artificial intelligence. So some of the applicants with great mindset can be just shifted out of the pile before they reach your desk.
So I'm not there. We would need someone from the recruiting team to confirm. But I don't think, as I said, in our team, we don't just have computer scientists. We have different backgrounds. So they must have passed the filtering from the recruiting. I think what we're looking for, it's people with good, good studies, a good track record of studies, but then also good motivation, because you need to be motivated to excel at anything. But then really we have people with backgrounds in economics, business studies, lawyers, or people with legal backgrounds, physicists, few of us, in fact. So I really encourage also other backgrounds. And so we also, of course, have computer scientists. That's, we have a lot of them, but it's not the only profile. And so I'm sure recruiting is doing something to address that.
Thank you for your feedback.
Somebody else who wants directly to ask a question. Yes, here. Nina.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just a follow-up question to that maybe, because you've been mentioning now different study backgrounds and everything. My question is a little bit, how do we... There are many cyber cracks out there that didn't study, I would say. And many of the bad guys aren't guys that studied.
We should ask them.
We lose them to the bad guys, maybe. No, so maybe a question there, because I always see when I look at cybersecurity jobs, the first line always is must have masters in computer science. And I think that keeps many people from applying. And goes a little bit in the question we're there. Maybe it's already sorted out by HR anyway if you don't have a master's. So do you think companies are making their lives a lot harder with that? Or
should I get the question? Yeah.
Are you asking for a master? Otherwise you can't work for Deloitte?
I think it's encourage or equivalent work experience. So you need to show some. If you're entry level, how else can you show what you're bringing, right? So studies is a reflection of what you've done in the last few years. If you were not a student, then you must have done something else instead. So now I don't want to say we don't need university degrees. Please apply without a university degree, because it is a very important factor. But if you have a good story, then I don't know. If you have equivalent work experience, which brings us same value that a degree would be, or even more, then of course that's also very important. But I would lie to say, yeah, we don't ask for the master or the university degree.
Serge, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, if everyone is looking for a master's degree in Switzerland, so you only are fishing in a pool or in a sea of 600 graduates per year. And if you're also applying personnel from the professional education, you're fishing in a pool of 5,000 to 6,000 graduates each year, from apprenticeship graduates, they have already 4 years of training and experience, up to higher education or University of Applied Science, up to 10 years of educational experience, and also probably a bachelor or a federal certificate. So the pool is the population is much bigger.
Yeah.
And they have professional experience.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I would love to go on, but I'm looking a bit at the time, and it's time for the break. Whoever has a question, I guess when they are here still within the break, I think they are okay to answer more questions. I'm going to summarize here. We know we have to start early to get more people into the ICT. We need role models to get more women in there. We need more apprenticeships. We need more collaboration on tertiary level. We need more collaboration among the companies to make sure we are ready for the cyber attacks. So that's the words for the break. Let's take a break, have some fun, and do some networking.